This is the first time I've made a video in quite some time, and not really sure why that is, just haven't made a video in a while. I've been super busy with life. I recently got married, which is a very good thing. I'm super happy about that. I'm still me, and I still have shit in my head that makes every single relationship a challenge, but it's something that I have to continue to work on, and something that is pretty much probably just gonna be that way, and I have to, or have, learned to accept it. So now, as far as that goes, it's more or less just me and Cassandra learning each other and trying to understand what makes each other click. And ultimately, I mean, I picked the right person. I couldn't be happier, and I'm grateful that things happened the way they did, because if it would have been something different, I would have had too much time to think about it and somehow messed it up. But anyway, so in the meantime, I have been trying to understand the parts of my brain that don't work very well, or that don't work efficiently, in my opinion. Or maybe it is efficient, I don't know. But the parts of my brain that make it challenging for me to understand other people, or for me to have normal relationships with people, because I see things differently, apparently, than a lot of people. So anyway, and in the course of this therapy, I have been analyzing everything in my life, from why I think about things a certain way, to how come I feel this way compared to how other people feel, or just basically trying to understand why my brain works the way it does. And through the course of that, I was given a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. And essentially, back in the day when they came up with that term, you were basically, they felt like people that had borderline were in between psychosis and normal, I guess, thinking. So because of that, they felt like people were borderline in their personality, and I guess that's where the name came from. But really, what it boils down to is it's just difficulty in normal interaction with people, because it's hard to explain, but a way that I have heard it that makes a very large amount of sense is it's like an emotional burn victim. And it's easy to injure a person with borderline with words or actions, or sometimes even implied. And obviously that's not fair to anyone, because it makes life very challenging when a person with borderline has a reaction about something and everyone looks to that person as though their emotions are invalid and don't make sense. And that's it's a double-edged sword, because it's like that from both people. So that's something that I'm dealing with, and it's been quite challenging, because once you know where a lot of this stuff comes from, and once you know where a lot of this, I guess, personality imperfection is, in my case, trauma induced. And that trauma can be in various people. It can be perceived various ways, and it doesn't always have to be actualized, I guess. Sometimes the threat or PTSD or whatever can induce these maladaptive patterns that make people cope in certain ways. And ironically, the coping mechanisms are kind of safety features, but they can be very difficult for people to understand what they are and where they come from and what they actually mean, because most people would take it very difficult. It's hard to not take that kind of stuff personal when you feel like you're being attacked for something insignificant, or your partner is having a crazy reaction about something that doesn't seem very warranted. An example would be me and Cassandra normally take showers together. And if for some reason she was to take a shower without me and I got in my head about it, I would think maybe she just doesn't want to be around me right now, or maybe something's wrong, and I would start this thing in my head where next thing you know, I am pissed off and upset and don't know how to vocalize it, because when I do, I sound pissed off and upset, and that's not really whatever. So anyway, trying to deal with that in a new marriage, and trying to be open and honest about that, but then also trying to process it from my perspective is extremely difficult. Sometimes I just want to run away, and that is unfortunately not the right response, and that also can be difficult in a relationship, because when your self-esteem is challenged by certain things and you haven't really had the ability or gotten to the point to where you've built your own self-image up, then that can be difficult to feel and difficult to process because you're not really well equipped for that. So going through my treatment, primarily I've just been dealing with the superficial. And I say treatment like just therapy. I just go to a therapist, and try and figure out new strategies, new coping mechanisms, new ways to look at things, etc. And in the course of all this, I have been honest with my therapist about my life and the things that have transpired. And one of the things that is usually a good, or not a good, but something that is seen a lot in people with borderline personality problem or disorder is that there is some sort of trauma, whether it be sexual, physical, or neglect. And honestly, minus the physical abuse, I was a victim of both of those, sexual and neglect. So, and the neglect was because my mom was a single mom and she had to work, and she was working quite a bit, and that made things more difficult for me as a child because I was trying to figure out how to be a little kid and an adult at the same fucking time. So I didn't really do well at either, and because of that, I guess I was looking for, I don't know, but we lived in a house in a part of Dallas near where my grandmother and my grandfather lived, and the road was Elam Road. And next door there was a couple that would come over, and the guy was older, but I kind of don't really remember how much older, and the girl was, I want to say, either right around 20 or anyway a little plus or minus 20. So, and I guess I don't even really know how any of it started, but they would abuse me together and take pictures of it for many months. And I didn't even remember a lot of the parts of it until I quit drinking around 8 years ago. Not really sure why that is, because it's not like I was drunk all the time and trying to drown my memories, but I guess it did it anyway, because I really didn't remember a lot of the stuff that happened until then. And maybe it's because I was able to finally start reflecting on who I was and why I was, and why, I guess, ultimately. And what I realized is that I was going to therapy for years and years and years and trying to work on what the problem was, but I was skipping over the real problem. It was like this. Yeah, this happened to me, but you know, let's talk about something else. And like not giving it any kind of weight, or not putting it where it needed to be in my brain. It just seemed very matter of fact, like it was just something that happened. I don't even understand why I wasn't angry or any of that until a few weeks ago. And I was angry about something and realized I wasn't angry about anything, and then thought to myself, why am I angry? And I'm angry because someone hurt me, and it changed everything. And because of that, a lot of things happened in my life that I just kind of let happen. And I didn't take control of it, and I didn't understand really anything about it. And that's because I was disassociated from it. I wasn't even really coherent of it. It was just something there. I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to have it in my fucking brain anymore. But I just kept stuffing it down and stuffing it down. And then I was wondering, why am I fucking pissed off all the time? Well, it's because you want to kill these motherfuckers and you can't. Or you want to finally be okay with who you are because of that shit, and not be ashamed and be embarrassed and be disgusted in who you are because of another person that took advantage of you. So the biggest part of this for me is that it's no longer misplaced anger. I know where it's directed. And I am going to try to find these people and somehow take back a little bit of the power that they stole from me. And I pray to God that I don't find them. But if I do, Anyway, this video is essentially me finally trying to purge a last little bit of that infection so that I can heal, because that shit's been festering inside of me for years. And they are right when they say that shit is like a cancer. It's not gonna go away. It's not gonna disappear. And if somebody hears this and it sounds familiar, say something. Don't be ashamed because somebody hurt you. Don't be disgusted in yourself because someone robbed you of your innocence. The first step to ridding yourself of that toxic shit is to stand up for yourself and embrace every part of your life and turn any of the negative stuff into fuel, not only to become a better person, but to teach other people, because we really are a lot more connected than we can realize sometimes. And we just need to start listening